Hi, I'm Linda Quinlan.
I'm Keith Ghostland.
I'm Ann Charles. Welcome to All Things LGBTQ. We're taping in Montpelier, Vermont, which is unceded Indigenous land, and it is Tuesday, August 8th. We have a lot going on, starting with Linda with national news.
And here we go. Comic and Let's Make a Deal host is living his authentic life and has publicly come out as pansexual. In an interview and essay published Monday with People, Bradley, 51, said, "I am pansexual." Or, the Whose Line Is It Anyway star joked, "Bisexual." With an open mind, "I love all people equally, and now that includes myself," he said. Opera star David Daniels and his husband, Scott Walters, pleaded guilty Friday to a sexual assault of a young man in 2010. Daniels and Walters reached a plea agreement as their trial was about to begin in Harris County in Houston. The Houston Chronicle reported the deal means the two men will avoid prison time. The man who spent more than 60 letters threatening violence to the Stonewall Inn and other LGBTQ individuals, allies, and affiliated businesses was denied a request for early release from prison. Robert Furling claimed in a letter to Long Island Federal Court Judge Joanna Siebert that he was not a hateful man and that remaining in prison amounted to a death sentence due to inadequate medical care behind bars. Furling is serving a 30-month sentence for a string of hateful and threatening letters sent to the LGBT+ community between 2013 and 2021. He recently suffered a heart attack, but prosecutors noted in their response that his heart condition predates his sentencing date and did not stop him from threatening violence against the LGBT community for a total of 8 years.
Nice.
I know. This country music bop taking the internet and streaming services by storm because it's got a catchy melody, but it's the raunchy gay lyrics that makes the song unique. He's bouncing off my body cheeks. I love the way he rides. I can hardly breathe when he's pumping deep inside, sings Dixon Dallas in a viral hit, Good Looking. So here's the song.
There's something about the way you look in my eyes. Like a starry night, you light up my sky. You lean in closer and my heart starts to pound. I heard you sigh, you know I love that sound. He's bouncing off my booty cheeks, I love the way he rides. I can hardly breathe when he's pumping deep inside. I kiss him on his neck and then he kisses on my pussy. Call him daddy while I holler, man, that boy's so damn good looking. We made love and then he kissed me, I don't want it to end. Every day we spend together, I fall more into him. That boy, he takes my breath away. I can't find the words to say, so I wrote this little note. Kiss it, seal it, so you know I've got some time, if you've got some time too. You've been on my mind, baby, let me remind you while I lay you down. I can't get enough, I'm stuck in your love, that's fine with me. Nowhere else I wanna be. He's bouncing off my booty cheeks, I love the way he rides. I can hardly breathe when he's pumping deep inside. I kiss him on his neck and then he kisses on my pussy. Call him daddy while I holler, man, that boy's so damn good looking. You can be my king, no, this ain't just a fling. I'm all in, baby, I'm falling. You can be my king, no, this ain't just a fling. I'm all in, baby, I'm falling. Hey, he's bouncing off my booty cheeks. I love the way he rides. I can hardly breathe when he's pumping deep inside. I kiss him on his neck and then he kisses on my pussy. Call him daddy while I holler, man, that boy's so damn good looking. You've got that kind of love I've only felt in my dreams. Baby, oh, you save me, you're my everything.
I think you'll like this song.
Okay. I'll be tapping my feet.
A school district in Mississippi has implemented a dress code that discriminates against transgender students. Last month, the Harrison County School Board adopted a dress code that requires students to wear clothes matching their gender assigned to them at birth.
That means I should wear a onesie?
Yes.
I-
Wear a diaper. Megyn Kelly and other right-wing commentators are claiming that Megan Rapinoe's progressive activism is bringing down the performance of the U.S. soccer team in the Women's World Cup. These morons on the women's soccer team continue to embarrass us on national stage, Kelly said on a podcast. After the tie, they're celebrating out there like they just won the whole thing, she said. They won't sing the national anthem. Half of them won't put their hands over their hearts. Half of them are half-assing it. They clearly don't want to be doing it. I mean, they look like they don't even want to be there. It's like some sort of inconvenience to be representing the USA.
And you have an update, right, about the U.S. soccer match?
No,
They
but
lost, the U.S. lost.
oh yeah, they lost to Sweden.
Sweden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why she was talking like this.
Centimeters.
By a little, well, the first game was kind of a tie,
Right.
and they're heartbroken.
I know. But this was her slam on them about
And
why
there are
they didn't.
11 lesbians on the team.
I
I
know.
was going to report, but
I was going to say, it's a new team, and they knew going into, the Women's Cup that they hadn't performed on an international stage. They did not have that much playing time. They were relying on, the momentum of the moment, and it didn't quite happen.
no.
Yeah. It was too bad.
I think it was like the worst performance in history, or,
Yeah.
in recent history.
Well, yeah. And she's saying it's because they're activists that it happened. Anyway, a former minister in Michigan pleaded guilty to the 1918 murder of a black transgender woman, Kelly Stowe, who was active in local Detroit ballroom scene. Authorities announced Albert Weathers, 50, a former pastor of Lacos Church in Detroit, pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and a felony firearm count in the case of Stowe, 38, whose body was found in the street around 6 a.m. December 7th. And he's only facing 8 years in prison for murder and another 2 years for a firearm charge. That seems a little lenient, don't you think? Mm-hmm. And a little celebrity gossip. Gabby Windy, who has appeared on The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, and Dancing with the Stars, has come out as queer and reveals she's dating a woman. So, there you go for that. And then for my last story for right now, I'm going to talk about the real sad story of O'Shea Sibley. Beyonce paid tribute to O'Shea Sibley on Tuesday on her website. Sibley was stabbed to death at a gas station near Coney Island over the weekend. Sibley, a 28-year-old gay man who has a professional dancer and some friends, were reportedly dancing and voguing to Beyonce's music when a group of men approached them. The group of men allegedly stabbed Sibley and his friends with anti-gay slurs. The suspect, who police say is 17 years old, ran from the scene. The entire incident was captured on the gas station's surveillance cameras. The case is being investigated as a potential hate crime by the NYPD Hate Crimes Task Force. friends and family members gathered Tuesday in Philadelphia to remember O'Shea Sibley, who was fatally stabbed after he confronted teenagers who taunted his group of gay black friends as they danced at a New York City gas station. O'Shea has the power to touch everyone's heart. Whoever met him, said Otis Pina, a close friend of Sibley's, who was at the gas station and barred the grief hours later in a Facebook video. O'Shea was a beacon of light to a lot of us in our community, and here is a picture of him.
They'd all been at the beach and stopped for gas on the way home.
Huh?
They'd all been to the beach, he and his friends, and they stopped for gas on the way home.
Yeah. So, Keith.
Yep. Yeah, thank you on that. Yeah, right. So the trivia question, and visibility is critical for the advancement of the queer communities. And in keeping with that theme in a story to come up in the next segment, this was the first openly and out HIV positive gay man to appear on a national TV series. And Zach knew the answer. So, good going, Zach.
I knew it right away.
I knew it before you asked it.
And Rainbow Umbrella, the women's discussion group and book discussion group. Women's discussion is coming back in September. Book discussion group is still meeting. And there is a new date for Words in the Woods.
Yes, September 16th.
At 11 a.m. still?
At 11 a.m.
At Elmore State Park?
Yep.
All right, so we'll be promoting this. Fox Market, our friends in East Montpelier. Saturday, August 19th is their Queers Are Magical Creatures dance party. Wear something festive. And also to acknowledge, they have a wine club and Saturday night dinners that are special features. And on the 26th might be their fettuccine Alfredo night.
Oh.
Italian macaroni and cheese. And I want to put out there again, as nonprofits and organizations are struggling to recover to the flood, the Samara Foundation, they are putting out you can submit a grant application for an amount up to $5,000 anytime prior to August 31st, so there's still time to get it in. We'll have Zach put up the contact again. And as we had said before, it doesn't have to be a special project. It could be unexpected needs. Or, we need support in sort of helping our organization move to the next stage. But if you have a special project, they'd like to see that as well. So
I'm thinking of them as we speak.
And some of us are afraid of that. And lastly, out in the open in Brattleboro, they're doing a fundraiser specifically for the members of the LGBTQ plus community that were impacted by the flood. And their statement was, natural disasters can create unseen challenges for rural queer Vermonters who had left their homes. Many folks here are alienated from their family of origin. That often happens in the LGBTQ community as people get disowned or pushed out of their families or communities of origin. And while so many locals are evacuating flooded homes to nearby family members, that might be more challenging for folks who don't have a local family. So they're doing specifically a fundraiser focusing on this. We'll put up the contact information. And their summit, which is happening in September, is now going to be a benefit for LGBTQ people trying to get past the flood.
Good.
So with that.
All right.
All right.
A lot of headlines, a lot of information. Let's start with North America. And this isn't directly LGBTQ, but I think it's important. The Mexican city of Chihuahua is going to fine anyone performing misogynistic songs. I know it.
There goes half their repertoire.
I know it. They've moved to ban performances of songs that promote violence against women, citing high levels of domestic violence. The city council approved the measure unanimously, and the mayor said that fines for noncompliance could range from $40,000 to $74,000. Violence against women has reached levels that we could consider a pandemic, he said in a video message, adding that almost 70% of emergency calls in the city relate to domestic violence, in particular against women. We can't allow this. We also can't allow this to be normalized. And the law bans performance of songs, but also there's a little offshoot. It bans narco songs, so songs that promote drug dealing and so forth.
Oh.
So very interesting.
I'm impressed.
Yeah. And any money collected from the fines are going to go to the Instituto Municipal de Mujeres, a local government organization that promotes gender equality.
Good.
And it's a women's refuge, too.
Good for them.
In Chihuahua State, there have been 24 femicides or gender-based killings from January to June of this year. So that's
Jeez.
overdue, that kind of. Now, we have another story from North America, Grenada, which you don't hear much about in the news. And unfortunately, this story has kind of been overshadowed by Tyler Perry, who has offered a $100,000 award in connection with a gay man who was killed in Grenada. And I have a picture before you now of Hosea John T. Johnson, 24. He went to the beach and was found strangled. And he had had a gig, in that town the night before. So Tyler Perry's offering $100,000 for information relating to the murder. He was Mr. Robinson was found dead on an island, the island nation's capital, St. George's, where he performed. And just to catch up on Grenada, it's in the Lesser Antilles. It's homosexuality is illegal, with same-sex acts punishable by up to 10 years in jail. And this is what came to mind. It's sort of interesting. Sexual orientation and gender identity, of course, are not legally protected. But, well, anyway, Perry said that when he learned of the death, his mind immediately went to Matthew Shepard and all the other victims of racist, homophobic, anti-Semitic, and xenophobic, senseless violence.
What keeps coming to my mind is that anytime there's been reporting on this island, it's Grenada or Granada.
I know it.
Tomato or tomato.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, please, help.
I know. Well, we should get I'll get some more clarity and present it next time. There's a new arrest in the assassination of black queer lawmaker Marielle Franco, and it's so sad. And I have a picture before you now of a portrait of her in a mural in Rio. As you recall, she was killed by gunfire in 2018. We reported on it at length. Two former police officers have been named, and the driver of the car named a third person, Anderson Gomez, who there was a chase in the streets of Rio when the murder occurred, and this other person was accused of, he's a fireman too. I'm sorry, Gomez was the driver of Franco's car. This new person named is Samoas Carrera, a former firefighter who allegedly hid the weapons used in the killing and played a key role before and after the attack, most notably by conducting surveillance on Franco and arranging the acquisition and disposal of the vehicle. Franco's sister thanked the investigators for the progress to date, but wondered aloud when justice would be served for those who ordered the assassination. She currently serves as a minister of racial equality. She said on Twitter, "I have reaffirmed my trust in the federal police running the investigation and repeat the question I've been asking for the last 5 years. Who ordered Mariella's killing and why?"
Why did they?
Well,
You know?
it's Bolsonaro, don't
Yeah.
you think?
Yes, but why?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because she
Yeah.
opposed him.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And continued to vocally call him
Criticize
out.
him.
Yeah.
Well, now I'd like to go to England, Europe, starting with England. British rowing, it plans to ban transgender athletes from women's events, a familiar story. More than 80% of the body's members had advocated for the change to face this, safeguard the family. World Rowing allows transgender athletes to compete in the female category if they reduce their testosterone. World Athletics, World Aquatics, and Cycling's governing body are among the global federations that have tightened their participation rules over the last couple of years, and soccer's world governing body, FIFA, is renewing its transgender eligibility policies. So, more of the same. Now, in a sort of after the fact, UK Prime Minister apologizes for ban on LGBTQ plus service members. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak apologized because the ban was in place from 1967 till 2000. And in the year 2000, they were forced to lift the ban because the European Court of Human Rights forced them to. They were denied medals, some were taken away, some lost their pensions, and a report has been issued that filed 49 recommendations, and we'll see what happens with that. Sunak was very apologetic. And now, one of my favorite stories is coming up from England. It involves a film and a clip. It's called Medusa Deluxe. It comes from the UK. It's an hour and 41 minutes. You can find it on Just Watch, which is some kind of app that we need to explore further. Otherwise, it's not streaming anywhere, but we've got to keep our eyes out for it. Let me tell you the plot. Talented, ambitious, and backstabbing hairstylists gather for a competition in England only to find one of their own murdered before judging can begin. Winding through the neon-lit halls and backstage dressing rooms, competitors unspool long-simmering resentments and secrets as they search for the killer among them in this devilishly funny whodunit from debut filmmaker Thomas Hardiman. So let's look at a clip from Medusa Deluxe.
You don't know what it's like losing your hair. You might as well be dead.
There could be a serial killer on the loose.
It's a hairdressing competition. Did you kill him? How do they even know it's murder?
Someone scalped him. Was he all right?
All right? No, he was dead. They follow me, dead people. All I want to do is cut hair, and they keep dropping.
How do you tell someone when love has been scalped?
They're short answers, Renee. They don't care about perms.
There's me thinking we're just a bunch of hairdressers.
She's fixing this.
One smile and she's some kind of gangster fixing the show of murdering the rivals.
I might take that break now.
Got no fun.
This is the crown that you never take off. There she is! Woo!
There's so many streaming, apps
Outlets.
these days. It's like you
And
can't.
I may be glad I don't have hair.
It's so funny. I mean, just a clip gives
You
you
know?
a really good picture.
Because you'd like to see a lot of these, and they're I've never heard of that one particularly.
Well, it's just out.
Or, well, the streaming app may be a monthly fee or,
Just Watch is apparently a new thing, and it trolls all the Netflix and Amazon Prime and everything, and then you have to pay a monthly fee.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm. Okay. Well, thank you, Ann. We have a couple of good movies to look forward to.
Yes.
Werewolves, though.
Still haven't seen Barbie, though.
Oh, I want to see Barbie.
But you have your Barbie shirt on.
Yes.
Sandy Staggs has a deep passion for the arts since he was a child. He grew that passion to be a pillar in the upstate, creating a space for other art enthusiasts in the LGBT community. After Staggs died from a heart attack on February 27th at the age of 55, firmly reflected on his contributions to the arts and his own challenges when he first told people about his queer identity. Proud Mary Theater will continue with new performances and opportunities for LGBTQ+ individuals to showcase their talents on stage. The company remains committed to its mission and will keep doors open for future publications. Georgia. It's in Georgia. Republican members of the House Appropriations Committee on Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development, a THUD, filed a block amendment on Tuesday striking 3 community project fundings. You did that. Massachusetts was one of them, correct?
Yes, and I have a follow-up, actually.
Okay, well then I will leave that to you. And my last story here, I believe, is...
If I can find it.
Yes, it is. It's Friday night at a small bar in an unassuming strip plaza, and 20 women are standing on the stage learning how to line dance. Clad in their country best, they follow their high ponytailed Daisy Dukes wearing instructors' lead. A shuffle there, a turn here, their feet zigzagging in step with their dance partners. Earlier this year, the ladies' room couldn't gather this kind of crowd. Back in April, the Largo Lesbian Bar narrowly made it past the first-year mark. Now, thanks to a viral video, new business tactics, and old-fashioned word of mouth, more people are frequenting this spot. And there's only 16 lesbian bars in the United States.
Wow.
today. Yeah. So they're trying to keep this one going.
All right.
So, Keith, we're on to you.
So do you want to go learn how to line dance?
Yeah.
Sure
They're
knows.
having line dancing at the Senior Center.
Moving on.
Starting in September. I can't wait.
Oh, help.
Actually, I've seen Linda take line dancing lessons at a bar
It's
in
fun.
Houston.
Okay. Texas, huh? All right.
With my hat.
Quickly following up on what Linda was alluding to, in Massachusetts, their House Appropriations Committee took out $850,000 from the budget, and that's money that was targeted for the Pride Home, our retirement community in the city. Well, guess what? The Senate's put it back in.
Good.
So they restored the money, and the executive director of the LGBTQ Senior Housing Project said the Pride House will happen.
Good.
End of comment. So good going. By the time this show airs, the Red Cross, following the CDC guidelines, will no longer be asking questions about sexual orientation or gender identity with the intention of prohibiting you from donating blood. The protocol will be, as we have always asked, not based on who you are, but your practices. What is it that you have done within the last 3 months that potentially could infect the blood supply? So it's going to be based totally on practices, not identity. It's about time. And there was an adjective in there if you didn't hear it. So I read this article in 7 days and got very excited. There is a new queer theater and dance company. It is called
I didn't know.
It's called Between the Willows, and their first performances are this weekend, unfortunately.
Wow.
And their performance is Beasts of Crete. And I have a couple of photos that we'll have put up so you could see the production. These are two students that had met at the Essex High School.
Yeah.
And now that they've graduated and moved on, they're like, okay, one of them did choreography, the other one did directing and production. So they decided they wanted to start a theater company. They got funding from PCC, which is a computer company in Burlington.
And what's the name of the theater?
It is Between the Willows.
Okay.
And PCC, which is a computer company that was founded by Jay Schuster, they have been the lead sponsors for queer activities in Vermont for years. The queer productions that have come into the Flynn, it's usually PCC that has been the sponsor. And some of the comments was, I think it's just important in general to have minority voices or marginalized voices be at the forefront of telling their stories. When mainstream media present queer stories, they tend to focus on queer trauma, disadvantages, and the difficulties of being gay. And it's really, really beautiful and wonderful to have a space that's solely dedicated to expressing queer joy and queer experiences.
Nice.
So I'm really looking forward to...
Me too. And could they do your play, the one that's standing in?
No, Standing in This Place was specifically Vermonters telling...
But they couldn't do that there? Never mind.
Something to think about.
That's a longer conversation over
Okay.
dinner. Okay? And this is a story that when I was reading it, I didn't think I'd have any bicuspids left because I was going to snap them all. 7 Days did an in-depth story saying, if you think the Alliance Defending Freedom has targeted Vermont, you're right. And they went through, and what I hadn't appreciated is the Alliance Defending Freedom has already been involved in 5 suits here in Vermont, and they've won 3 of them. And they're doing it on a basis of freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and as we have reported on previous shows, they're incredibly devious. They will create cases that they can then, file for reappeal or appeal from court to court to court to get to the U.S. Supreme Court, excuse me, where they know it's a favorable panel. And that's what happened in Maine, which is one of the suits that actually they won here in Vermont. It was parochial school, Rice Memorial High School in South Burlington. Based on that Maine decision, the state of Vermont had to give the parochial school public school dollars for tuition that had originally been denied, that was then ruled unconstitutional.
That's
because
obscene.
they could be
Obscene.
And that's what happened in the Supreme Court case.
Exactly.
They manufactured.
The 303 decision,
Right, yeah.
right? But one of the things that Alliance Defending Freedom is looking at right now are the pregnancy crisis centers that were identified in the most recent piece of legislation, where we put into statutes that if they engage in what is, essentially deceptive advertising, that they can be fined $10,000 to $15,000 per incident. And what the Alliance Defending Freedom is saying, oh, no, you have singled them out, and that, this is, freedom of speech. They have the right to promote themselves. However, what Charity Clark, our Attorney General, has come back with is, we have the same deceptive advertising language already in statutes as it relates to healthcare clinics that offer abortion services. You're merely being held to the same standard. We've identified you, and we're going to enforce this. And what the Alliance Defending Freedom admitted to the reporter who contacted them is that they're watching us very closely to see what is going to happen in the next legislative session, where the House, this most recent session, was trying to figure out how to define when and if a faith-based school was eligible for state tax dollars for funding. And what they were looking at is the school had to agree to follow Vermont's non-discrimination statutes.
Right.
And that the monies that were given to the school could only be used for secular, not sacred studies. So if you were going to a Catholic school and there was a catechism component of your day,
you didn't get money for that.
The monies couldn't be used to pay for that instructor, but they would pay for the English teacher, which I knew gives you, you can sleep at night.
They're
Knowing the
entwined
English.
sometimes, the same
Well,
teacher
if
teaches it all.
there's,
The grammar
well,
school.
then only a portion of the monies could be used for the salary. You would have to separate, and that's where our legislature got bogged down, was trying to tease out, okay, what is the language, where is the line? And they were also looking at what had happened with the case that came out of Maine and was finally decided by the U.S. Supreme Court. Okay, where's the line? What did they specifically say? And from reading the language of that original court case, it was looking at the school could apply and they had to be given the same consideration as every other school. It wasn't an automatic, you get money. So, and it was very specific to, you were a township that did not have a school within your district, so you were tuitioning your students out. Okay. My last story is not a fun one, and it's an incident that happened in Somersworth, New Hampshire. And Somersworth is just outside of Portland, New Hampshire, about an hour north of your old stomping grounds in Boston. Gay male couple who run William Poole Confections Shop, and they lived upstairs over the shop. They were beaten by a group of youth, and they now say that they're frightened to be in their store and in their home because at one point a youth had climbed up the side of the building onto the ledge to try and get into their apartment. So it's not that they happen to see them on the beach or on the street. At one point they try to actively get into their home.
So they didn't beat them in their home. That's what I heard. And you're right, it's significant that they entered their, I mean, you know, it's a whole new
The
level.
report that I read on LGBTQ Nation was that the group were outside of their home and business yelling, and it made it sound
Like they were beaten in their house?
No, like they tried to get in their house and...
This is where it gets confusing. They were assaulted by young people who had tried to enter their home. So they may have gone out to confront them or tried to escape, and that's when the beating happened. But you're right. Some of the language said, here's the youth trying to get in, and then they were assaulted as part of that whole process. So.
And that is an additional violation, you know.
You're right. Exactly. And, you know,
That's awful.
The Civil Rights Unit of the Office of Attorney General, local law enforcement are actively pursuing this.
As a hate crime.
Right. So this is not just something that's going to pass. So. And on that cheery note...
Was it because they were LGBTQ?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because they were yelling homophobic slurs.
Well, I've kind of good news from Italy, certainly colorful news.
More up than what we've been...
A little bit, but, you know, it's mixed, but mostly good in a tempered kind of way. First of all, I mentioned last time about the Giorgia Meloni's crusade against lesbian parents, in which the law said that you couldn't acknowledge paternity or maternity from LGBTQ parents who adopted abroad. And so that would leave the parents would have to engage in a readoption process, so the kid would have no family during this period. But Milan will resume registering students born abroad from male couples. It's registering, the mayor, who's a lefty, said he challenged curbs imposed by the right-wing national government. The government, as you know, took action in January to stop local authorities from registering children of same-sex parents in a move that sparked protests. No longer able to register children born abroad to couples of two men, the city of Milan turned to the Interior Ministry asking if it could at least register the newborns under their biological father. So it got a green light, which means that Milan can kind of partially sidestep this horrible rule. The center-left mayor Giuseppe Sala hailed the decision as a step forward. The local arm of the Interior Ministry had told the city of Milan that it could no longer register children of male parents without a court approving the adoption. Now Milan has received this go-ahead, so that means the city can sidestep the veto, at least with the biological father. The other parent still has to engage in the adoption process, but that's another victory. Concerns a Canadian couple who won a case against a right-wing party in Italy, Giorgia Meloni's party, that used a photo of their newborn son in an anti-LGBT campaign. And now let me show you a picture of B.J. Barone, Frank Nelson, and Milo. They won the court case. The child Milo was born via a surrogate in Ontario in 2014 during Pride weekend. The couple had the moment captured by a local photographer, Lindsay Foster, who really is behind the 8 ball on this one, in photos that later went viral. In 2016, the image was used without permission in the campaign against surrogacy for male same-sex parents by the Brothers of Italy, Meloni's party. And we know that she became Italy's first prime minister, who was a woman, and has formed the most right-wing government seen in decades. So anyway, the photographer told CBC News, it was upsetting to know that there was a political party sharing this photo in such a negative way for their hate propaganda against gays and surrogacy. So she, Barone, and Foster sued the party, and in May the couple were awarded the equivalent of more than $14,000 Canadian each. However, the photographer has to pay the court costs of the right-wing party. So the copyright infringement fight was thrown out by a judge, and because for that reason I have to pay the Fratelli d'Italia's court fees. She said she would have to work for months to cover the cost, but a friend launched a GoFundMe to help target the $8,000 Canadian, and it's almost been reached thanks to more than 130 donations. So the parents speaking to the media said, "I'll never forget the love I felt, and luckily for us, it was captured by Lindsay in the most beautiful photo I've ever seen." Somewhat positive outcome. But now this is a hoot. Trans women pageant organizer Patricia Merigliani has made clear that this is about Miss Italy, that the competition is open only to contestants who were assigned female at birth. And that has angered trans activists, so trans man Federico Barbarossa decided to enter the pageant and encourages other trans men to do so. It was like, yeah, well, I was assigned female at birth, but they would reject me because I looked like a boy, and they would consider me as a boy, he told NBC News. But he applied to be a contestant using his dead name, and the pageant officials sent him a confirmation email. He posted it on Instagram, and his local activist group, Mixed LGBTQIA+, shared it on social media as well and suggested that other trans men apply. At least 100 people have entered, and said the pageant staff will have to go through every application. Perhaps Morigliani and her associates will think better next time, he told NBC. I like to think I'm a little part of Italy's progress in this sense. Some applicants have advanced to the next stage of the process. There's a great deal of ignorance about trans people, he pointed out. They would never think that a trans person might even aspire to win a beauty pageant because we're seen as kind of like a three-headed monster. And I think part of it is that so many people have never seen trans women or trans men or trans people in general. Miss Italy is not affiliated with the Miss Universe pageant. Miss Italy Universe is a separate competition. At least one trans woman has advanced to Miss Universe pageant this year, Rika Cole, who won Miss Netherlands, which I reported on last time, as the first trans woman to do so. Miss Universe has allowed trans women to compete since 2012, and in 2018, Angela Ponce of Spain became the first trans contestant. In the U.S., Catalina Enriquez won Miss Nevada in 2021 and competed as Miss USA. I never thought I'd be paying so much attention to beauty pageants as I am doing this show.
That's a hoot.
I know it. They're fighting back in Italy. All right, sad story. I'd like to show you a picture now of the Chechen singer Zalim Khan Bakev, who has this. You see the picture of Ramzan Kadyrov, the head of Chechnya, posing with this singer. And when Kadyrov discovered that this singer was gay and that he had posed with them, he ordered the torture and murder of him because the Putin ally was personally insulted to have unknowingly shaken hands with a gay man. Now, I reported on Zalim Makev's going missing after returning to Chechnya for his sister's wedding in 2014. The popular singer fled to Moscow because of the gay purge in Chechnya, and Kadyrov was aghast that the photo existed of the two men shaking hands. He ordered security forces to deal with him, who was tortured for much of the 13 hours he was in custody before he was executed. And it gets even creepier. The report said that Bakev's body was returned to his family in order to bury him like a dog. Months after he went missing, Kadyrov gave a speech to service members accusing Bakarov's family of killing him because they learned he was gay. They told him, come over. And when he arrived, apparently his cousins or second cousins confronted him and said, you're gay, Kadyrov claimed in a 2018 speech. Despite the denial of involvement, the speech was the first official admission that he was dead. Now, let's go to Asia, if there's time.
There is.
There's an Iran morality official who's been suspended after the leak of a gay sex tape, which is all very confusing. I don't know what to believe, and I don't think anybody does. The tape, the official in charge of Iran's morality code and hijab requirement for women was suspended earlier this month after an unconfirmed video released to social media purportedly showed him having sex with a young man. But it's an unconfirmed video. He was suspended, and after it was first posted on this radio station in his township, and it was reportedly filmed on the premises of the General Directorate of Culture and Islamic Guidance. But the officials don't know anything about it. And as we know, homosexuality and same-sex sexual relations are illegal in Iran and punishable by death. So critics rightly claim if this case is true, that it just shows the hypocrisy of the government and the two-tiered system of justice that allows favored individuals to escape punishment for crimes that would bring prosecution, imprisonment, and even death to ordinary citizens. However, and apparently the official's sister and nieces were detained by authorities, although it's unclear whether he's been taken into custody. Speculation has grown that the video might have been released as part of a power struggle in the region. And the radio that exposed this tape exposes alleged financial and political corruption and sexual improprieties of ruling mullahs and members of the government. And this is interesting. It also recently revealed the identities of those engaged in same-sex acts with a different government official and referred them to the authorities for prosecution. So this is also murky and very creepy.
And people can do anything with a video these days. I mean,
well, yeah, and no one has confirmed it.
Artificial intelligence create whatever you would like your reality to be.
I know.
Absolutely.
And that police state atmosphere fosters questionable behavior. Russia has taken its first step toward banning gender-affirming procedures. I won't go into more of that.
And we need to have time for the trivia questions. So.
Okay, can I just do some headlines?
And
Oh, well, I'll have to save it for next time, and we'll defer to Keith. A lot of interesting stuff coming up next time.
all right.
I'm kind of scared, but okay. So the trivia, this was the first out, self-disclosed HIV-positive gay man to appear on a national TV series. It was 1994, and it was MTV's reality show, The Real World San Francisco, where, you know, it is a group of youth who are sharing an apartment, and they just go in and film the everyday interactions.
Why don't I remember this?
And the person was Pedro Zamaro, first HIV-positive gay man. He was also the first same-sex wedding ceremony to be televised nationally, and it occurred within the context of this show. And it was his partner, Sean Sasser. But unfortunately, Pedro also died in November of that year of complications due to HIV. But he is frequently referenced on the list of LGBTQ milestone newsmakers. So,
Bravo.
and with that,
I think.
Well, can I do a couple more headlines? Hezbollah chief, a new attack on same-sex relations. The leader of Lebanon's powerful Hezbollah movement on Saturday stepped up his attacks against the region's long marginalized LGBTQ community. He said of gay people, even if they do it once, they are to be killed.
Okay, on that note, I think we should go.
All right.
We have 50 seconds.
All right.
So I would like to tell everybody, and let's see what happens in Ohio today.
yeah.
And keep your eyes open. And remember to resist.
Resist.